The Janet Enigma. Monday, Janet was Janet. Crisp white blouse, sensible gray skirt, hair pulled back so tight her forehead looked permanently surprised. Tuna salad sandwich at her desk, meticulously eaten bite by bite, no crumbs daring to escape. Peter had even caught her humming a hymn, something about amazing grace. Tuesday, however, was off. It started with the dress. Still professional, a navy pencil skirt, but paired with a silk blouse in a shade of emerald that seemed to soften the lines of her face. Her hair, usually a severe bun, was down, styled into gentle waves that brushed her shoulders. And the lunch? Gone was the tuna, instead, a vibrant salad with grilled chicken and a dressing that smelled faintly of citrus perfumed the air around her desk. Peter leaned back in his chair, pretending to study a spreadsheet. But his eyes kept drifting back to Janet. It wasn't just the clothes. There was a lightness to her movements, a subtle spring in her step that he hadn't noticed before. He even swore he saw her smile, a genuine, unguarded smile, when Mr. Harrison complimented her on the quarterly report. Later that afternoon, he decided to investigate. "Hey, Sarah," he said, sidling up to the water cooler where Sarah from accounting was filling her bottle. "You notice anything different about Janet today?" Sarah took a long swig. "Different? Like what?" "I don't know, she seems brighter. More relaxed. And did you see that salad? It looked like something out of a magazine." Sarah shrugged. Maybe she finally decided to live a little. You know, break out of that shell. Good for her, I say. She paused, then added, although, now that you mention it, she did seem a bit less organized than usual this morning. Asked me 3 times about the petty cash balance, which is usually her domain. Less organized? That didn't sound like Janet. Peter frowned. The seed of suspicion, once planted, began to sprout. It wasn't just a good mood or a fancy lunch. Something was definitely different about Janet. And Peter, bored with spreadsheets and craving a distraction, was determined to find out what it was. Operation, observe Janet. Operation, observe Janet commenced promptly at 8 o'clock hours. Day 1. Black coffee, no sugar. Arrived precisely on time, immaculate navy suit, sensible shoes. Peter meticulously scribbled in his new, oversized notebook, purchased specifically for this endeavor. He felt a ridiculous thrill, like a low-budget spy. Janet's day was a symphony of staplers and hushed phone calls. Peter documented everything, the precise angle of her head as she typed, the way she rearranged the pens on her desk obsessively, he noted, the type of biscuits she selected from the communal tin digestives, every time. He needed to understand the rhythm of her life, the nuances that distinguished one Janet from the other. Was there a discernible day Janet and night Janet? Lunchtime arrived. Operation, follow the secretary was a go. Peter trailed her, feigning interest in the window displays of a nearby electronics store. Janet, oblivious, marched purposefully down the street and entered a small, unassuming deli. He watched through the window as she ordered a salad, tuna, no mayo, and sat alone at a small table, reading a book. He couldn't make out the title. Disappointing. Back at his desk, fueled by boredom and lukewarm instant coffee, Peter initiated Operation Digital Dig. He typed Janet Olson into every search engine he could think of. The results were underwhelming. A couple of generic LinkedIn profiles, a yearbook photo from what looked like the 1980s, and a concerning number of links to articles about Olsen twins. Nothing that screamed secret double life. He even tried variations, Janet Olsen accountant, Janet Olsen hobbies, Janet Olsen cat memes. Zilch. It was as if she didn't exist outside of this office. This only deepened the mystery, and Peter's resolve. He flipped to a fresh page in his notebook. Phase 2, he muttered, requires a more personal touch. The hidden room. The fluorescent lights hummed, each bulb a tiny sun in the labyrinthine hallways of Olsen and Daughters. Peter, bored senseless by the unending stack of invoices Mr. Abernathy had dumped on his desk, decided a hunt for the mythical supply closet was in order. He'd asked 3 different people, each pointed him in a different direction. Clearly, no one actually knew where the darn thing was. He rounded a corner, the clack of his shoes echoing in the sudden quiet. This wing felt different, colder, less populated. He hadn't seen anyone since turning away from the main office area. He paused, frowning. Was that, arguing? Faint voices filtered through a nearby door, the jamb of which was casting a thin line of light. Curiosity, a constant itch under Peter's skin, won. He crept closer, pressing his ear against the cool wood. Can't keep doing this, Janice. I have a meeting with the board in an hour. That was Janet's voice, tight with controlled frustration. A lighter, more melodic voice replied, Relax, Janet. I'm just saying, the green suit is hideous. It makes you look like a sickly avocado. Peter risked a peek. The door was only slightly ajar, but the sliver of space offered a glimpse into a small, cluttered office. Bookshelves overflowed with files, and a half-eaten sandwich sat precariously on a stack of papers. But it wasn't the mess that caught his attention. It was the 2 women. One was undoubtedly Janet, her severe bun slightly askew. The other was, identical. Same sharp features, same pinched expression, but her hair was down, cascading in loose waves, and she was holding up a vivid scarlet dress. The schedule, Janet was saying, her voice strained. Did you remember to reschedule the vendor meeting? Of course. I'm not completely irresponsible, you know, the other woman, Janice, retorted, tossing the scarlet dress onto a chair. She reached for Janet's navy blazer. Now, help me with this button. I swear, you always make sure the good outfits are for when you're playing businesswoman. Peter's brain short-circuited. Twins. An elaborate ruse. The implications slammed into him with the force of a rogue wave. He stumbled back, knocking against a metal filing cabinet. The voices inside stopped. The sliver of light vanished as the door swung inward. 2 is better than 1. The flickering fluorescent lights of the office seemed to hum with a newfound intrigue. Peter leaned back in his chair, the cheap plastic creaking under his weight, replaying the scene in his mind. Janet, or was it? The subtle shift in demeanor, the almost imperceptible change in the way she held her pen, it was like watching a chameleon. The realization bloomed in his chest, a strange mix of shock and excitement. 2 Janets. Sharing a life. Sharing, well, that was the question, wasn't it? That evening, fueled by instant noodles and lukewarm coffee, Peter descended into the digital rabbit hole of the internet. Identical twins, psychology, behavior, and shared experiences, he typed into the search bar, a mischievous glint in his eye. Articles, studies, and personal blogs swam before him, a chaotic sea of information. He learned about mirror-image twins, shared consciousness theories, and the almost telepathic connection some claimed to possess. The more he read, the more a plan began to crystallize. He paced his tiny apartment, the floorboards groaning under his restless energy. This wasn't just a quirky secret, it was an opportunity. An opportunity for, what exactly? He wasn't sure, but the thrill of the unknown was intoxicating. He stopped in front of his dusty mirror, a wry smile playing on his lips. Good evening, Janet, he murmured, practicing his most charming tone. That's a rather fetching shade of beige you're wearing today. He cringed. Too much. Too sarcastic. He needed to be subtle, disarming. He tried again, softer this time, his voice laced with genuine curiosity. I couldn't help but notice you seem different today. In a good way, of course. The reflection stared back, unimpressed. This was going to take work. But Peter, fueled by boredom and a thirst for something, anything, to break the monotony of his life, was ready for the challenge. He just needed to figure out how to tell them apart. And then, the real game could begin. Charm offensive, Janet. Janet wrestled with the recalcitrant filing cabinet, its bottom drawer jammed tight. The metal groaned under her frustrated tugs. Peter, feigning deep concentration on a report he'd already skimmed twice, watched her from across the small office. He'd noticed the fine sheen of perspiration on her brow, the way she bit her lip in concentration. An idea sparked in his mind, as mischievous as it was unexpected. "Need a hand, Janet?" he asked, pushing back his chair. She straightened up, her dark eyes wary. "I've almost got it." But her strained tone belied her words. Peter strolled over, casually bumping her aside. "Let me at it. Sometimes these old things just need a bit of persuasion." He wrapped both hands around the drawer's handle and gave a sharp, controlled yank. It sprang open with a metallic screech, sending a cloud of dust motes dancing in the afternoon sun. Janet blinked. "Well. Thank you. No problem. You know, I've been meaning to say, I really admire your dedication, Janet. You're the only one who seems to actually know what's going on around here." He leaned against the filing cabinet, closer than strictly necessary. A faint blush colored her cheeks. "It's just my job, Peter. More than that. You're sharp. I noticed how you caught that error in the Henderson report. Saved us all a major headache." He paused, letting the compliment hang in the air. The scent of her perfume, something subtle and floral, filled his nostrils. "So," he continued, changing tack slightly, "big plans for the weekend?" Janet gathered the scattered files, avoiding his gaze. "Just, catching up on things. Laundry. Groceries." Peter feigned disappointment. "That's it? No wild escapades? No skydiving?" He chuckled, hoping to coax a smile from her. He was starting to find her reserve intriguing. He wondered which twin he was talking to. The more he thought about it, the more he sensed the differences. She finally met his eyes, a flicker of something unreadable in their depths. "I prefer my feet firmly on the ground, Peter." Charm offensive, Janice. Janice was a breath of fresh air. Where Janet was reserved, almost guarded, Janice radiated a goofy, infectious energy. She was currently sketching in a large, spiral-bound book during her lunch break, charcoal smudging her cheek. "Wow," Peter said, leaning closer. "That's intense. What is it?" Janice looked up, a wide smile crinkling the corners of her eyes. "Just letting off some steam. It's Mr. Henderson's motivational poster in the break room. But, you know, reimagined as a Lovecraftian horror." Peter chuckled, recognizing the mangled, tentacled version of the smiling cartoon sun. "That's brilliant. You should sell these. Call them corporate nightmares." "Maybe I will," she said, winking. "Think there's a market for it?" "Definitely among the disgruntled millennials," Peter assured her. He lingered, enjoying the lightness of the conversation, a stark contrast to the previous day's careful treading. "So, spill. What's the latest office gossip?" Janice leaned in conspiratorially. "Apparently, Brenda from accounting is having an affair with, wait for it, Greg from IT." She gasped dramatically. "I know, shocking, right? He only wears socks with sandals." Peter laughed. "Scandalous. This is the kind of insider information I need." He paused, then, on a sudden impulse, added, "Hey, you know, I'm still relatively new here. Would you be up for grabbing coffee sometime and filling me in on the rest of the juicy details? Strictly for professional development, of course." Janice tapped her charcoal stick against her chin, considering. "Coffee, huh? I'm more of a tea person, but I suppose I could make an exception. How about tomorrow? There's this little place down the street, the Daily Grind. Their chai lattes are surprisingly decent." "Tomorrow it is," Peter said, a grin spreading across his face. Consider me properly briefed. He strolled back to his desk, a strange mix of anticipation and guilt churning in his stomach. He was playing a dangerous game, but for now, the thrill of it was intoxicating. The gift mix-up. The tube of shimmering body paint thrummed with possibility in Peter's pocket. Janice, with her wild spirit and even wilder art, would unleash its potential. He pictured vibrant strokes of teal and jade dancing across bare shoulders, a spark of playful mischief in her gaze. He'd fleetingly considered a gift for Janet, perhaps a restrained set of watercolors, but the image clashed. Janet and dazzling color simply didn't align. Friday afternoon finally rolled around, a welcome respite from the week's monotonous data. Peter, practically buzzing, waylaid Janet near the water cooler. "Hey, Janet, I have something for you." He produced the gift bag with a flourish that felt overly dramatic, the rustling paper drawing attention from across the open-plan office. Janet's usually impeccable eyebrows furrowed slightly. "For me." She took the bag with a studied politeness. Tucked within the layers of tissue was the very tube of iridescent pigment. Janet's expression remained a mystery as she turned it over in her hands. "What is this?" she inquired, regarding the tube with suspicion. The metallic label caught the fluorescent glow. Peter's carefully crafted facade of casualness imploded. He'd grabbed the wrong present. He stammered, "It's a revolutionary lotion. For parched skin. Terribly innovative." He cringed internally. Revolutionary lotion. Janet's skepticism was palpable. "Lotion," she repeated, her voice laced with disbelief. "It clearly states iridescent body paint right here." Her tone was ominously calm. A couple of nearby colleagues suddenly became engrossed in their monitors. Panic flared. He needed to recover, and quickly. "Right. That's the brand name. Iridescent body paint lotion. Catchy, don't you think?" The forced chuckle sounded hollow, even to him. Janet's gaze remained fixed, a silent interrogation that threatened to unravel him. He could almost hear the gears whirring in her mind, analyzing his ludicrous explanation and finding it utterly devoid of merit. Heat crept up his neck, a blush threatening to betray his clumsy deception. The air crackled with unspoken questions, and Peter felt himself sinking further into the quicksand of his own making. The twin trap. "He gave you lilies." Janet stared across the kitchen island, her voice tight. Janice nodded, fiddling with the hem of her apron. "And he told me he was getting you the limited edition Agatha Christie set. The one I specifically asked for." "Sounds about right," Janice chirped, grabbing an apple. "He probably just got confused. You know how he is." Janet didn't buy it. Peter wasn't confused, he was something. The lilies, the book, the way he looked at them both. It was all too calculated, too deliberate. "He's playing us," she stated, the words sharp. "Playing us?" Janice laughed, a bright, tinkling sound. "Don't be dramatic, January. He's probably just trying to be nice. Nice doesn't involve splitting a gift in half, literally. Or looking utterly dumbfounded when I mentioned the book." Janet's jaw tightened. I think he knows." A beat of silence hung in the air, broken only by the rhythmic thump of Janice's apple core hitting the counter. "Knows what, exactly? That we're twins?" "Please, even Mr. Henderson figured that out after a week." "No, that we switch," Janet clarified, her voice dropping to a near whisper. "That we're not always who we appear to be." Janice's eyes widened. "Okay, now you're officially paranoid. But, intriguing. So, what do we do?" Janet tapped a finger against her chin. "We test him. We set a trap." The next morning, Janice, armed with Janet's severe blazer and a meticulously crafted bun, marched into the office. Peter was already at his desk, sketching something in his notebook. "Peter," she said, her voice deliberately lower, mimicking Janet's reserved tone. He looked up, a flicker of surprise in his eyes. Janet? You're early. Janice ignored the comment. I need to ask you something. Something important. She paused, letting the tension build. About us. Peter's pencil snapped. He swallowed hard, the Adam's apple bobbing nervously in his throat. Us? What about us? How do you feel, Peter? Janice pressed, leaning closer, her eyes boring into his. Truly feel. Don't play coy. I deserve the truth. Truth and friendship. Janice's laughter bubbled up as Peter recounted his clumsy attempt to hide a wilting rose from Janet earlier that day. He leaned closer, the scent of her perfume, a mix of lilies and something sharper, almost citrus, filling his senses. It's crazy, right? Keeping this secret, juggling two Janets, he stopped, a flicker of unease crossing his face. Actually, it's kind of exhilarating. Just between you and me, though, I think I'm falling for both of you. The laughter vanished. Janice's expression hardened, the playful spark extinguished. Both of us, she echoed, her voice suddenly devoid of warmth. From behind her, Janet stepped into view, arms crossed, a stern look etched on her face. The lighting in the break room seemed to sharpen, highlighting the identical lines of their disapproval. Peter, Janet began, her voice low and controlled, we need to talk. Peter's carefully constructed world crumbled. He swallowed, his earlier confidence evaporating. I can explain. Explain how you thought you could play us like this. Janice's voice was laced with a hurt Peter hadn't anticipated. Did you honestly think we wouldn't notice? He ran a hand through his hair, feeling the heat rising in his cheeks. I messed up. I was bored, and I got carried away. I'm sorry. Truly. He looked from one twin to the other, the sincerity in his voice genuine. I never meant to hurt either of you. A long silence stretched between them, punctuated only by the hum of the office refrigerator. Finally, Janet sighed, the tension easing slightly from her shoulders. It was stupid, Peter. Incredibly stupid. But, Janice added, a small smile playing on her lips, it was also kind of impressive. The sheer audacity of it all. Peter managed a weak smile. So, what happens now? We could report you to HR, Janet said, a glint in her eye. But where's the fun in that? Janice looped her arm through Janet's. How about we become friends? Real friends. No more secrets, no more games. Peter let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. I'd like that. I really would. He scrubbed a hand over his face. I'm truly sorry to both of you, and I would like to try to fix things. Maybe we can even get drinks after work. Janet and Janice exchanged a look. We'll think about it, Janet said, a hint of amusement in her voice. But first, you're buying us lunch. Every day, for a week.